All right. The question of the day is, should I borrow money to start my restaurant?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, I think naturally a lot of people immediately jump in and say, I want to start a restaurant, so I need to go to the bank and I need to get a loan. And I always say, let's take a step back because you may or may not need to do that. Now, depending on the scale you want to go, that could actually play a big factor. So what I always tell people is before you even know, should you go get a loan, the question I would ask is, well, how much money do you need? And if you can't answer that question, then that's like you showing up at the bank saying, hey, I want to start a business. They're going to ask you, how much money are you looking for?
Yeah.
And if you're like, well, I don't know, then the bank's probably not going to take you that serious.
Yeah.
So I always tell people that getting a loan is not a bad thing when you're getting a loan to do something that's going to create more income. It's not a bad thing if the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
So I would say, one of my clients called me and said, hey, they wanted to start a restaurant 2 years ago. And, we went through and he was like, hey, I'm going to need this X amount of money. And we went through the numbers and we came up with a strategy, and he really only needed $28,000 to really kick the restaurant off. And he thought he needed so much more. But after working through some things, we realized, based on between him and his wife, they had enough savings to kick that off. And the restaurant is still in business. They're growing, they're profitable. And so I always say is you want to make sure you look at the numbers to answer that question. Now, you may need help to look at the numbers because that may not be your thing. So I always tell people is, this is where it'd be good to have a quick conversation with an accountant, or I would say a forward-thinking accountant that can actually think through the process and help ask you some questions, in which, we probably should do another video where we actually talk through, hey, here are the questions you should be asking yourself before, so we're going to do that in another video. But to answer the question directly, should you get a loan? It depends on how much money do you actually need to kick off the restaurant and the idea that you're trying to do.